Well, hello, Miss Day.
Well, hello, Mr. Angelus, and welcome to Day Camp.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you, and especially since I don't have my partner, Miss Camp, here, which is the duo of Day Camp, but I'm very happy to have you here instead. So thanks for joining
I'm
me.
glad just to be mano a mano with you and not have a two-on-one situation here with both of you. It's a little intimidating.
So, Jason, I want to talk to you because you are joining our leadership camp in Tuscany in just a few weeks.
Indeed.
And before we go there and talk about the camp, I'd like our audience to know a little bit about you. You have been in the corporate world for a very long time, 25 years, right?
Yep, 25 years and a couple of months, and then a few jobs before that. But yes, well over
Okay.
25 years with one large company.
And that's where we met. I used to work for Cisco, as you know, but I didn't work for Cisco anymore. But then we were introduced by a former colleague of mine and someone in your team. And I remember she telling me that, hey, I just talked to my boss's boss, and he's really into culture. So I told him about you and he wanted to meet you. So that's kind of what had happened. And we had a meeting, and I never forget it because it was a 15 minutes meeting. And we went into the meeting never having met, and we left the meeting having decided that you and me and our teams are going to go on a world tour together to work on a culture code for your entire global team.
Yep,
That
that's
was
right.
pretty
Well,
cool.
it wasn't that loose and free, but it was a little bit of a, hey, let's do a pilot, and if this is cool and the team love it, then let's definitely kind of apply this to the rest of the 350 people in the organization. So, and then yeah, we ended up doing the world tour together, which was absolutely one of the highlights of my leadership career over the last 20 odd years.
And I must say, I think it's one of the most fun jobs I ever had and my team ever had. I also want to thank you for something because what happened there is you put that pressure on me, of course, saying you have to prove yourself to the toughest leaders in the company. They're all hardcore engineers
Hmm.
and they probably, not even want to show up and listen to you. So first we have to get them into the room and then you have to convince them. And we brought in our neuroscientist, Michael Hansen, which also will be at the camp. And we find our model, the corporate spring model. We knew that in order to work with engineers, we need to have a very strong methodology. And that is actually when the corporate spring model for real was manifested into the world through your
Yeah.
team. So thank you for that.
No problem. It was absolutely, such a great time. I think one of the things that really locked it in for us is that pilot project, right? And for those leaders that are familiar with leading technical folks, they can, you say the word culture and they start to break out in hives, right? I mean, literally it's something that a lot of people are not comfortable with the concept and think it's just this light, fluffy, fuzzy thing. I like the way the Italians say it too, aria fritta, right? Like you're just creating fried air. It tastes good, but there's nothing in the middle.
Hmm.
And we proved them all wrong, right? And we created Converse with that first cohort, and then ended up going to I think 9 other sessions, right? And 4 other locations around the world, if I remember correctly, converted every one of them. I mean, I still get notes from people today, even 6 months after leaving Cisco, of how much they learned going through that process and the workshop with your team. And that grounded in neuroscience approach to it was really effective with the folks who really want to be kind of given a scientific context for why this is an important topic. And it was just awesome.
And now you have jumped from the big corporate into the startup world. So tell me, what does that feel like?
Oh my God, it's like going to the other end of the spectrum. So it goes from a place where you kind of understand process and bureaucracy and whose role is what and know different parts of the organization to lean on versus, my role now is basically have to wear every hat, do everything that is required doing. And what's wonderful about that is I'm exercising muscles I probably hadn't used in a while in terms of process, organization, just getting it and using common sense and document editing and getting in front of customers and pitching. Like it's just a little bit of everything. And I absolutely love it because I think I was probably getting a little complacent in my old role at Cisco. And this is just super refreshing for me to jump into something where every day is a new challenge and from getting down and making a customer happy, that an existing customer, to trying to bring new ones in, it's all over the place and it's wonderful. So, really loving
So,
it.
so I guess that you kind of had a little reset, right? Because it's a little bit when you come from a world where things work a certain way and you go into a very different world, you have to kind of unlearn some of the things that
Oh
you
yeah.
knew.
But yeah, I mean, detox is probably not a nice way to put it, but it is essentially like, in a way, you need to. I think this is important for all leaders to understand when you move from one environment to another, even from one company to another, you do need a bit of a separation gap. You need to take some time, let all the things go that were frustrating you or holding you back, and get yourself ready to jump into something new. And fortunately, I had a bit of time to do that too, which was awesome, and it really helped. And really appreciate my new team that I'm working with now, and giving me that space and giving me the time to get adjusted to their culture and their work at the moment. So it's been great.
And when we get together in Tuscany, leadership is on the agenda. And we all know that there's so much going on in this world and so many changes happening. And being a leader today is quite different from actually what it was to be leader only 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, even 2 years ago, or a year ago, or maybe even 6 months ago, I think.
That's true.
It is so crazy at the moment. And I can tell you, just even in, I don't have a large team anymore. We have a sizable team in the startup, but it's not anything as complex and hierarchical as what I was working in before. But the challenges are more or less the same, right? That you see. That's what I find really interesting, is people are people. And leading, whether
Exactly.
you're leading one or you're leading 300, you have kind of the similar issues, especially in today's world.
Yeah, no, that's our experience as well. Like working across industries, companies, teams of all sizes, and it all boils down to pretty like fundamental human things when it comes to collaboration, communication, leadership, trust issues, all those things. I mean, everyone has them, but everyone thinks it's very unique for their team.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that pop out for me in what makes it so hard right now to be a leader. What are the challenges that are being thrown at us? Like, number one, I think there's just the pace of change, that the change is happening so quickly. And how do you lead effectively through that kind of like ongoing uncertainty and rapid change and socioeconomic upheaval? Like, the situation being created out of the United States makes it even more complex, because there isn't a business that we work with that isn't touched somehow by a bit of the chaos that's happening in the United States at the moment. And for good or for bad, whether I'm not to get political here, how you feel about that, it's quite a bit to deal with, and it creates a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress, I think, for your employees and your team members and your partners and your customers. And so that is just a lot to deal with at the moment. And then on top of that, what I found, and I don't think this is any different from anybody else, is that, well, how do I find time then in all of that to sit down and get quiet time to think strategically, to deal with operational issues that demand immediate attention, and to pause and get the time to do the work that needs to get done to be an effective leader, I think is really challenging in that environment. And then I think the last thing is, we're so used to now interacting in this kind of virtual format, and we just step on Zoom, step on Google Meet, step on WebEx, whatever tool you use on Teams, and we just kind of approach our work very transactionally these days, that making meaningful connections with people almost becomes something you have to focus on and plan for and budget for, by the way, because the biggest, I think, impact of the pandemic was the shrinking of travel budgets. And a lot of companies thought, well, we don't need, see, we were so effective through the pandemic, we don't need to get people together anymore. Teams don't need to get together and have FaceTime. We can just do this all virtually. That has created an environment where making these meaningful connections and in this complex work environment become absolutely critical. And I think, this is something I'm really keen to try to, every organization I touch base with is, hey, how are we getting together face to face? What are we doing face to face? Doesn't mean every day. I don't need to go into an office every day, but do need to create an environment where you foster meaningful connections with people, either virtually or in person. But I think in person is, the right balance is critical in this situation.
I worked with many leaders, and I remember so well when I worked with your team, the kind of connection between the people and the relationship that you had to people. And it seems that always has been an extremely important way of your leadership, is to have that very personal connection, not only being their manager, but also being a colleague with them, because that's how I saw you with your team. Like, usually I can come into a room and I can just tell, oh, there's the leader. You see the way that person acts, and you can see how people act towards them. I couldn't tell that with your team. I remember that because you were all very equal, and it was such a friendly, such a safe, such a good environment, and that's very rare. So I agree with you that that personal connection that you always have valued and prioritized and budgeted for, because you really did budget for that. You didn't just talk about it, you made sure it was in your plans. I think that made a huge difference for your team.
Yeah, it absolutely did, and it was, it was a peak experience really from a leadership perspective, and I think all of my leaders on my team would have said the same thing or would say the same thing even today. And you're right, you have to budget for it. You can't just assume that you can make this magic happen with on a shoestring budget, and you have to make it a priority, right? What we know about it is I didn't just do it because it made me feel good or it made the rest of, like, yes, I want the team to feel good, but why am I there? Well, I'm there to, deliver something for the organization or for the company. And what we always found is that, by doing this work and laying this groundwork, team effectiveness goes through the roof, right? So you get a ton of productivity, you get loads of discretionary effort. When someone's got to pitch in and do something on the weekend, they don't even think twice because they know they'll be covered by their colleagues or they'll get the time back, or in this environment, they don't want to let each other down. So I think the thing is, yes, it's important to feel good. Yes, we want to create that environment of passion and joy in the workplace. But also keep in mind, we're doing that because two things. I want people to be happy because I just generally like to work in an environment where everyone's feeling good about themselves and feeling good about the work they're doing, but also because it produces amazing results, right? Like I think, the team I had back in, it was 2018, 2017, when we were doing this work together, was at peak performance. It was really an incredible period of time to look after them. And then when pandemic hit, naturally, I think that we did our best, right? Virtually, as you said, we did some work together with the organization to do the best we could with the tools at hand. And it worked for a while, but I think what happened is eventually that just starts to wear off, and you do need to kind of reinvigorate with some sort of more personable interaction and more personable collaboration. And that's where what led to my decision to depart Cisco was I just didn't feel like the company and I were seeing eye to eye anymore on the importance of that.
Yeah. And I think that's happening in a lot of companies these days, that when there's fear or insecurities or uncertainty, typically this is the first thing you put the brake on, the things that has more on the social part. And sadly, those who do that do not understand that the social part actually does create the
That's right.
results.
Absolutely right.
And one of the reasons why we want to have this camp was when we work with lots of different leaders, we hear the same. And also that it's hard to connect with like-minded people or people in similar situation. And you go on LinkedIn, you try to find some inspiration, you read a book, you maybe have like an ex-colleague or a friend or something who's in leadership. But it's hard to have those really honest, good, deep conversations about what it is to be a leader today. And this is why we are having this conversation. That's why we're meeting on the camp, because we really want to put leadership on the agenda and give people the tools and the inspiration and the network and connections that will continue to elevate you all after the camp as well. So tell me, what are you looking most forward to the camp?
Well, so first of all, I did watch some of your previous podcasts, and I like the way Audrey put it, which is that you're approaching this with much more kind of a flexibility mindset going into it, and I think that's really important. Like, we have a framework, but let's co-create with our attendees and let's figure out where this goes. So I really like that approach. That's really resonating with me, because I think rather than like, hey, here's, a specific agenda, we're going to cover these 5 topics and send you all home. It's no, let's have a conversation and talk about where we need to go with this and what conversations need to be had, because things are changing. Like we just said, things are changing so quickly. It's almost impossible, I guess, for you and your team to develop an agenda that's airtight, because what's things going to happen this week that throws that all into chaos, right? So I think that's
Exactly. And also, we want everyone who comes there to be able to bring their own challenges and their own topics, right? And there will be things we have no idea about, but bringing all these brilliant minds together, our goal and hope is that everyone will be sharing also like the hard stuff and get the support and help that you can need. And even though some of us kind of call ourselves experts, I mean, we are all experts. You're even more, I mean, you're more expert because you're out in the field. I think that is such a strength to have those kind of experiences meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add a couple of other things. So yes, looking forward to the flexibility agenda, but obviously really looking forward to Michael being there. I love the neuroscience. I can't wait to hear what's new from him. Like, I'm sure new information has emerged, the emergence of AI as a topic and allowing you to kind of quickly condense bunch of different studies into a large language model and start to get some meaningful output out of that. What is that? How is that influencing how we're looking at, neuroscience and the brain in the context of people and teams and organizational behavior? I think that stuff's really fascinating to me. I'm really looking forward to that, because I think, again, when I go back into my day job, as I have a role now as a COO and a role as a CTO. I think both of those, it's all about, like, how do I connect with those teams? How do I effectively work with a bunch of data scientists, data engineers, software developers in a way that resonates with them and allows me to kind of build bridges and build relationships. And then I think, the other stuff, like obviously the networking is really important as well. I mean, as like my network was basically a company for a long, long time. And one of the greatest challenges I think we have as leaders too is, like, well, how do I just get out and meet people from totally diverse backgrounds? And how do I make connections with different people? Because you never know. And I know you believe this, you never know when the next connection is going to lead to something incredible. And that's what I'm really looking forward to as a part of this as well. I know a couple of people there, but it'll be really fun just to get to know a bunch of new cohorts and new colleagues, and you never know what'll come out of it.
You never know. Exactly. And I think that is also so amazing when it comes to, because I usually not a big fan of the word networking, because it sounds very superficial. So this is, but it is networking in a way, but it's really connecting, because on the level you get to know each other, right? And you get to know each other as people and as leaders, and then you know that the ripple effects of that. So if you think about this group of people coming together and everyone knows, that also gets part of the network. So I think that is one of the fascinating things, that we have no idea what this is going to lead to for anyone. We just know that magic's going to happen. That's kind of our job, is to kind of set it up for that, and then let things just unfold the way it's supposed to unfold.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and it's set in the hillside of Tuscany is not a bad environment to make all this happen either. And I'm sure a few squashed grapes and some great Italian food will help the process as well. So looking forward to that part of it too. I lived in Italy for 7 years. I still speak Italian, and I'm really looking forward to getting back and exercising my Italian linguistic muscles as well, which will be great to head into town once in a while. Arms and hands.
Yes.
Important.
So anything else you want to share before we round up here, Jason?
I don't think so. I would say, just to wrap up, I think a lot is changing under our feet at this very moment. Really looking forward to a place where I can get together with a bunch of like-minded people and have a conversation about how we deal with that uncertain environment, how we, build some skills, get some tools, get a support network in place, which is lacking a lot in this area. As I said before, I think a lot of people look at this idea of, building high performing teams or culture, or, and they think it's just like, let's put some nice food out and give everybody free soda, and we've taken care of culture with a ping pong table in the break room. That's just so surface, right? And I think the important conversations to have are to be with a bunch of people that understand there's so much more to it than that. If I think about your foundational elements of identity, purpose, and trust, and how do other people approach, especially in this day and age, solving those challenges, right? Because you can't just say, well, I'm just going to create an identity and it just happens, right? Or how I want to drive the team towards a purpose and somehow magically it just materializes. Like, you have to work hard at this stuff, really hard. But I tell you what happens is, when you do work hard at it, it pays off X, as we've seen, right? So I'm looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to helping my current organizations or any future employers out there overcome some of these challenges and create awesome teams that, like I said, the return on that stuff is phenomenal. So it's worth doing.
Thank you so much, Jason. I can't wait to see you here very soon. And we'll talk more about this stuff then. And for all the rest of you, I hope you enjoyed our chat. If you want to check it out, the camp, you can find the link on the comments. And maybe else we'll see you there as well. So much. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.